I was doodling, and I drew this heart with a lot of words in it, powerful words, worthy, responsible, love. And then my buddy Evan looks at it and says, hey, we got to get that on a wall. And I had no idea what that really meant. Yeah. I'm like, huh? I didn't think, oh, a mural. I was like, what do you mean get it on a wall? Yeah. He's like, yeah, well, we're gonna enroll everyone in doing our community service project, because that's a project, it's a part of this when we end it, and it's gonna be a beautification project, and we're gonna beautify this wall, and you're gonna paint the mural and the message, and that's how we're gonna beautify it. And you're just gonna do the mural. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Little did you know that ended up being the moment that totally...
100 plus murals later, traveling the world, speaking, talking, painting.
I am Dr. Larry Burchett, and as I see in the ER every day, life can change in a moment. Here on this show, we tell the stories that matter most, after which life is never the same. We have an incredible guest for you today, Ruben Rojas. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Yeah. So we have a mutual friend, Dan, that referred you to me. I'm really glad that you can be here. I was looking over your stuff. You're big time. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to get into, you're an artist. You've got a story from how you left a more traditional professional business career and turned to art. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you tell your story, and we'll pull out the moment and do what we do.
Okay.
So what's your moment? What's your story? How did you get here?
So we're the sum of all the moments in our life. So is there really truly one moment that stands out that can say this is why I'm this right now? Or is it that every moment's stacked upon itself?
Challenging the basic assumptions of the show. This is good. Life can change in a moment. Life can change in many moments.
Yeah. So there's particular moments that led me to this point. One was being, I went to school to become a doctor. I was studying to be an orthopedic surgeon.
No kidding.
That was the plan, yeah.
Why did you want to do that?
I was a jock. It was easy for me. I loved anatomy. I loved just human movement and physiology.
Like soccer, football, basketball?
Soccer, football, track, basketball on the weekends. Eventually that led into CrossFit. So I've competed in different levels of CrossFit.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. Snowboarding, you name it. I've just always been an athlete. And I think that athlete mentality has also been a big proponent in my evolution, or in my dedication to how I move forward throughout life, right? We tend to compete. We know that if you put in the work, you're going to get the results. And the result is how you measure that you're improving or moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Athlete mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up playing a lot of sports? Why are you, I like the word athlete, jock's a little.
True, yeah. It gets a little.
Why are you an athlete? Why did you develop that mentality?
I've always been in a sports, been very physical. I mean, one of the differences, my brother's very physical now, but growing up, he was more the video game guy. Yeah. I wasn't. I was always on the skateboard, the bikes. It was my outlet. I didn't even realize it was an outlet until now. What I do to let go of stress and anxiety, I go train in the morning. Let it all out under the iron. And that's it. And I think that was one of the proponents. You can also see that you can track results. You can aim and put a goal and say, look, this is how I'm going to start. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to beat that person, and I'm going to get better. Yeah. So you can practice to be better. So it's not just your talent, but you can actually work really, really hard to get good and to play. So you've got two ways of looking at that.
You like that ability to kind of set a goal, achieve it, competitively beat somebody.
Yeah, I've always been goal-oriented, and it's kind of task-oriented, although I'm not very much like a task-type person. I just do work. Yeah. But it's good to know that you can put in things and efforts and get a result at the end of the day.
What'd you play in football? What position?
Outside linebacker.
Oh, that's one of the more fun positions on the field. Yeah. I was a receiver and a cornerback. Okay. How about track?
I did the 400, the 4x4, the 4x1, and the 2.
You were a sprinter.
Yeah.
What was your favorite sport out of all of that?
Football. Football was always my favorite, my go-to. It's quick little moments in life. It's just like life changes at a moment. Each play is one moment. You could reset, start over. assess how you messed that up or succeeded, and then just go again.
Are you from California, LA?
Born and raised.
Oh, no kidding. You got a team you cheer for?
I didn't grow up with a team in LA, so I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I picked them a long time ago, and
Eagles fan.
yeah.
I'm a Chiefs fan. All right. So you were an athlete and you wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I remember from med school, that's a very typical jock specialty, for sure. So what happened? So you went to college and you were doing pre-med classes and...
So I got a degree in exercise science. And I was the guy that took like 21 units a semester, so I almost have a degree in physics and chemistry and biology, like you name it. And what happened is just we were doing tours in hospitals, like this is what the thing is, this is what the business is. And then the thought in my head was, do I really want to be fat, bald, and 35 with $500,000 in debt and try to get out of that hole? So that was another conversation.
Wow, you had some examples of what it looked like to be a doctor.
And a guy said, hey, come try out loans. Come try out real estate. And I made just under $18,000 my first month in real estate. I'm like, I think I'm going to go down this path.
Wow. Was this in college? Or this is just after college?
Just after. Yeah.
We don't have to put a name on this guy, but do you remember this fat, bald, whatever?
No.
Was it a specific person? You just didn't like where that ended up at the end of that track.
Yeah, and also just what I saw in the hospital. And then the insurance business. There's just all these little things I started looking at, the administration of it. And I don't know, there's a point where I guess I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But then money in real estate was like, that was a shiny, bright object.
18 grand in 1 month. Mm-hmm. How'd you do that?
Answered the phone. Took a phone call, did the thing.
Were you a realtor or were you flipping houses? What were you doing to make
No, so I started in the mortgage side of it.
Okay.
So yeah, I was licensed for all that, obviously. But I started in mortgages. Eventually I branched out and did real estate and practiced selling houses and things like that. Doing really well. I ended up doing some hard money loans and different things where I lended out my own money. Mm-hmm. Obviously we all know what happened in 2008.
I was going to put this on a timeline. So you're making money in real estate in 2000 what?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So this is like 15 years ago when it was booming, prices were going up. So you're making big bucks. Mm-hmm. You said you made over $1 million at one point?
Yeah, there was a point where like everything amassed to that. You know, you're making 18 grand, then 20 grand, then 30, then 40. Yeah. Then you're buying properties, and then all of it kind of becomes like, oh, I'm a millionaire. Yeah, wow. On paper. I mean, it's not like there was millions of dollars in my bank account, but technically, you look at the whole net worth and everything, you've amassed some wealth, you've amassed some opportunity. Yeah. And just like that, it kind of goes.
So what happened?
Well, 2008 happens. You know, what's funny is my mom's always like, this isn't going to last, this isn't going to last, this isn't going to last. I'm like, if you think that this isn't going to last, like I don't operate out of scarcity, and I'm not going to operate out of what if or it's not going to, or I'm just be like, look, I'm going to keep doing it until I do it and figure something else out. Granted, I know more now based on my life experience than what I did when I was 24 years old doing this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I had bikes, I had boats, I had houses, you name it. And the biggest thing was like, as a young 20-something making money in America, in LA, you're kind of taught that what you have, what you amass, is how you measure success. Not so much now where it's like what I do and how I operate differently. It's like the legacy and the impact that I leave is actually how I'm going to measure success. The more people I can impact and change and move humanity forward, that to me is more important than wealth accumulation.
So this is back to your kind of goal mentality. In your 20s, maybe it was money or wealth, which is a nice number that you can see and track. And you're saying now it's kind of changed to human impact and making a difference. Yeah. 100%. So here's the question, like where did that change?
So in 2008, everything's crashing. Luckily, I mean, everything I did was above the board. Everything was legit. I didn't do anything bad as far as business. I saw people get FBI raided. I see people in jail. I know people that have that are still in jail. Like, it was insane. I've seen a ton of fraud in the business. And I'm like, I'm just not going down that path. So that was one, like, instant. Like, I'm making it up. When do you need to make more to do that? Greed, exactly. And what started is that the downfall of the business came, so I had to sell a house. So I never lost the house. I didn't really lose anything because I sold it all before things started happening. But I did use my savings and things to pay my credit cards, to pay my staff, because I have a 57-year-old office manager. She's got to take food home to her family. Like, that's my responsibility, is hiring her. So I just started burning all my savings to try and save face or whatever the case. It was just a personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And my credit's everything. You're taught that. My family was taught. Later in a different story, when we go into financial planning, I'll show how the majority of people don't know how important credit is and savings. But so I used that to get ahead. And there was a point where I finally like, okay, well, I got rid of the house, I got rid of the boat, I got rid of everything, but I still had all this debt I couldn't pay off. And that led to bankruptcy.
So you went bankrupt after 2008.
Yeah. So in 2009, I filed bankruptcy.
So from a millionaire, $1 million to zip, to negative.
To negative.
Dang.
Yeah.
A rise and a fall.
So I walk in, and luckily it was all, I got the attorney, walked in, judge said, cool, dismissed, because they saw that I did everything I could to, like,
I see.
Try
Liquidate
to
it all, yeah.
And now I look back and, like, there's so many people that just hit all their money, still went bankrupt, but anyway, I feel good about everything that happened, but that was like a lowest low. So during that time, what did I realize is, like, you know what, Ruben, you're still Ruben, and you don't need diamond encrusted watches and all these things to define yourself.
Right.
So that was a moment that was like, okay, well, where are all these people that were in my life? Or where are the people that I helped and lent money to, and why isn't some of that coming back? So you start realizing, like, who's around you? Who's the circle around you? Who are you operating with? How are you operating? And that was one tick toward that next change in my life.
Do you remember or keep in your mind, like, a visual memory of you in that moment when you were in the low?
A little bit. I don't dwell on it. It doesn't, like, fire me and drive me forward.
Yeah.
It was more of a moment that I looked at, and the way I look back at it now is I could have easily gone down this path, but luckily I had,
What was this path? What was the bad path that you could have gone down?
being a victim. Why me? Woe is me. Like, how do I get out of this? And maybe I never get out of it, and I scar myself in
What would that
fear.
path have looked like? What would you have done?
Who knows? Maybe I'm working in a cubicle, corporate secure job, non-sales, non-commission, and I go get a paycheck.
The dark side of that.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. $65,000 a year with benefits.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not going to lead me to the lifestyle I want. But I could have easily just phoned it in and say, look, I'm never going to be in this position where I'm at the bottom of the bottom and I can't support myself.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, that's not good enough. Like, I know I could succeed, so let me figure out what happens next.
Okay, so 2008 crash, you lose all your money, you go bankrupt, and you're like, I could just go to corporate America and have a boring, secure job and whatever. But instead, you went a different way.
Yep.
What?
So I was in limbo for about a year. Like, I was so disenchanted from the real estate business. I just got this dirty taste about it and didn't want to really operate in it anymore. So I kind of just let all that go. It was just done.
Is that because of, like, a lot of the dirty stuff that you saw, and you're like, it's too tempting to succeed and screw people and be dishonest. I don't want to be in this.
That was one reason. Or I saw the fact that, so I'm bilingual, so I speak Spanish. So then I went to another place, and they always are like, well, you speak Spanish, let's have you just deal with the Spanish-speaking people. And just the stuff I saw there, like, Spanish-speaking agents doing dirty stuff around Spanish-speaking clients.
Like what?
Putting them in houses they shouldn't afford, figuring out how to, like, sell them these things. And I'm like, I don't want to partake in that. Like, I just felt too, like, this is wrong.
Do you feel like they were getting screwed worse than a non-Latino? Or is it like the same thing that they just applied to both?
I mean, from my experiences in life, most people gravitate toward their own kind of people, right?
Yeah.
Latinos with Latinos, Asians with Asians, so on and so forth. And then they tend to give a little more trust. And from my experience, only from what I've seen myself, I've seen people take advantage of that. And I'm like, that's just not cool.
You didn't like that.
And I was like, I'm not gonna make this loan get approved just because you said so. I'm not gonna sell this person a house just because. And it continued what happened in the first place that got people in trouble.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not doing this. And then I ended up in financial services.
Good for you.
Thank you.
It sounds like you made a decision based on principle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said after real estate, you had a bad taste in your mouth. You went to financial services. What does that mean? Loans?
No. So the financial services industry. So then I'm in limbo. You know, my mom used to work at Northwestern Mutual. She's like, hey, try out. And financial services is life insurance, disability insurance, retirement planning, that business.
Okay.
Another father's friend said, hey, why don't you try out insurance? And there's a good business in there. It's a good opportunity. So I go from one pretty difficult self-employed sales commission business to an even more difficult business, right? Try selling life insurance to people that think they're not going to die or that don't think it's important, or disability insurance, right? I'm 30 years old. I'm invincible. I'm not going to get hurt or disabled, right? I mean, I had a lot of clients that were doctors. They're like, nothing's going to happen to me until something happens. And they're like, hey, Ruben, I need some stuff. Why? What happened? I'm like, it's too late. It's on your record now. Like, it's in your
too late.
Exams. You're done. Like, yeah.
It's too late.
So again, good business. It does good for people. But there's another business, again, they dangle a carrot. It's money motivated. And I did really well at the beginning. And then I got to a point where, like, wait a minute, I'm in this rat race again. And I'm not happy. And I care more about my clients than they care about themselves. And that was just not motivating.
Could have used you in medicine.
Yeah. Still go back, right?
So it's never too late, man. But I point that out for a reason, because things are repeating themselves for you, and I can see you have this goal-oriented thing, and you like to be successful in your professional life. Mm-hmm. But then there's something else in there. You know, there's this heart thing. So I'm curious, like, what is that thing? And it seems like you're encountering this again. Mm-hmm. You're making sense of it.
Yeah. So to dive into that a little bit, one of the connecting factors in everything I've done in my entire life, I've realized the common denominator is people. So when I was in college, I paid through that by being a personal trainer. As a personal trainer, I was mostly like a psychologist or a coach. Mm-hmm. That's really what it was. Like, they showed up, I told them what to do, but they would just talk for that hour, and it'd be a great conversation. In real estate, it was still kind of...
And that's probably what they got out of it a lot, too.
Yeah. But it's also one of the benefits of personal trainers is accountability, right? It's painful to pay someone money and not show up. Yeah. So pain points are how we adjust and grow and evolve. You know, like the pain of going bankrupt, the pain of learning all these things. So those are little moments that move me forward. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm in this business. I do well at the beginning. I mean, I'm still doing well, but then I start self-sabotaging because I'm miserable and I'm borderline. Dude, am I depressed? What, like?
You were not happy.
No, and I don't take depression.
How did you notice that? How did that manifest? I'm thinking about other people that maybe there's somebody listening to this that's in the middle of that. Like, how did you recognize that in yourself, that you weren't happy at your job?
I was no longer who Ruben is. My operating system was in conflict. So like, I've always been a very happy, competitive, outgoing type person. Yeah. And I was not in any of that. Like, I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to get dressed.
Wow.
Like, I didn't want to do the things.
You were depressed.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, and I don't take that lightly. Like, there's a lot of people that have a lot of serious issues around depression and that. Yeah. It was more, and I believe that we can actually put ourselves into those states. Sure. You know, one of the things that I like to talk about is I am. And I am statements. And a lot of time we're like, I'm fat, I'm sick, I'm unhealthy, I'm unhappy. You say it enough, you become that.
Yeah, it's identity. It's a belief about yourself.
So I started feeling all that. And in that meantime, you know, a buddy said, hey, why don't you come try out this workshop? And I did. And then I met another friend of mine that...
What was the workshop?
It's Master in Transformational Training.
Okay.
So it's like emotional intelligence, Tony Robbins type stuff, things like that. And we met. He saw me sketching, and I painted my first mural.
Wait. I missed that. Mm-hmm. You went to an emotional intelligence workshop, and this guy that invited you there, or somebody else?
So
tell me the story of this sketch.
So here, we'll stop that. Start here. So during this time
This is the moment, by the way.
Yeah. So during the time of feeling all this depression, conflict, self-sabotage, all these things, I was open to finding solutions, open to conversations, open to experiences. So my buddy at the time, Lewis Howes, he's actually got a podcast of his own, said, hey, I'd love to get a coffee with you and talk to you about this thing. And I was like, look, I was already open in the space, so had the coffee, had the thing, said yes. And a couple weeks later, I was in this workshop. So then I met Evan in this workshop. And he saw me doodling and said, hey, we got to get you on a wall. I'm like, huh? Like, yeah, you got to paint a mural. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, I've always been a fan of street art and photographed it and this and that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And we will enroll our class in doing a community service project that involves doing a mural, and you're going to paint the mural. And the backstory is he was running around Lincoln Boulevard painting ugly walls. It was called Beautify Lincoln at the time. Oh, okay. We later turned that into, on Santa Monica in Venice. Yeah. We later turned that into what is now Beautify Earth, our nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
And we can chat about that in a second. So this first mural that I painted, I would paint, after hours, paint on the weekend. I was still in a suit and tie, take that off, go paint. But the premise behind it is on the far left, it says, who will you be? And on the right is a ton of powerful words: worthy, responsible, leader, love, gratitude, joyful. So from that moment forward, like I always, even though I didn't realize in that moment that I had this purpose or this mission in my art, like from day one, like that was the foundation of my work, which, going back now, 3 years later, looking back, that's the biggest moment, right?
That's your moment, brother.
Yeah. And, that mural led to another. But the premise of that mural is like, I know how I was feeling at that time, and I would like a reminder. I wanted to see something that's going to help me shift what I'm thinking or how I'm operating. So I'm like, look, today instead of complaining or being sad, let me be grateful that I get to go to work and earn money and make a living and keep a roof over my head. Let me bring joy to my day today. Let me be worthy. Let me take responsibility for whatever these conversations are. And across the street, there's a Starbucks. And one of the ways that I resonated in my conversation was, what if that barista that wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to be there at 5:30 to get this potentially angry person that could have been me to order coffee, and I could have been angry at them and snappy, but like they're there doing the same thing, who knows? And instead of that, I'd be like, hey, thank you so much for being here because I really need this coffee. Who makes your coffee though, right? Starting to have this conversation. So if I'm happy to them, the next person that orders coffee gets their happiness back, and now you can create this contagion of positive thinking or positive energy. Yeah. So that's how the premise of my first mural began. And moving it forward, now we're 100 murals deep. There's a nonprofit, there's another startup, and then there's the Ruben art brand.
God, there's so many things that I want to ask you about. It sounds like this moment we're talking about where you're doodling, you weren't in the best place. You were in the low.
I was coming out of it because we were
coming out of it. And it sounds like part of your inspiration in this is connecting with people that may be at a similar place. Tell me more about that place where you were at. Like, how did that feel? What did you need to hear? Unpack that a little bit for me. As you're like, what was going through your mind as you were doing these doodles?
It's more the thought process behind how we kind of operate and realizing that we're all mirrors of each other. So if I need to see this and I'm putting it up for myself, someone else probably needs to see it. They may not take the information in the way I'm processing it, but they'll take it in the way they need to process it. So I was just thinking more, this is like, how do I start putting signs out there of things that are going to help me move forward? And then just realizing we're mirrors of each other. Mm-hmm. That was it. I need this, you need this.
You needed to hear this, so you shared it, kind of having the faith that there's somebody out there that's got to be in the same place, and that. Mm-hmm. What's the message? What did you need to hear?
Reinforcing that we have the opportunity to choose, that only we can make ourselves happy, that we get to take responsibility for everything and not pass that off. And ultimately, when you love you, that's when everything happens. You got to love yourself to be able to do everything you can do for the world and for everything you're trying to do and move forward.
What does that mean, love yourself?
It means own all your flaws, own all your skills. It means acknowledge yourself. It means to receive. I was a big giver, so I would overgive, and by the end of the week I was exhausted and on the couch passed out because I gave so much. And again, I learned in this that there is giving and receiving. And if you don't receive equally, you're not replenishing your own energy. But if you don't receive and you deflect, you're actually being even more selfish because you're giving, deflecting, and not letting someone else give of themselves so that they can have that back.
So part of how you love yourself is actually taking care of yourself in this way, as you say, receive, not getting burnt out and always giving and all that. Yeah. Give me two other ways that you think it's important, ways people can love themselves in that message.
One exercise that I have people do all the time.
The trainer is,
I say, hey, write yourself a love letter. And you can do it for 30 days. Sometimes I'm like, you need to do this for 30 days. For the next 30 days, write yourself a love letter. And it doesn't have to be an essay.
That makes me feel uncomfortable imagining writing myself.
Right?
Dear Lorenzi.
And use all your nicknames, all your this, no grammar, no nothing. It could be as simple as, hey, Ruben, I love you today. Or it could be a full-on essay on all the reasons. And every day can be different. It could be, I love you, like standards.
I might try that. That's intense. That makes me feel uncomfortable thinking about, so it's probably something I need to try.
I think you got to do that after this.
But I am going to do that after this. Okay, what's the other one? I'm still uncomfortable thinking about that, by the way.
Being open to other opinions or thought processes and things like that without judgment. We're so quick to judge. And I'm not saying this is easy, and I still get into all my things, but come from a place where like, okay, what are they really trying to say? Let's not judge it. And then realize that every single person is trying to do their absolute best with the information they have in that moment. So the person that cut you off on the freeway, do you think they actually did that on purpose, or are they trying to get to somewhere you don't know what their information is, and maybe they didn't see you? They didn't do it on purpose, and we like to say, oh, why'd you, and go off on. So that was the other thing that's helped a lot. Yeah. Like, people aren't actually out there trying to get you. Now, there's a few people, sicknesses and psychoses, those are different. We'll take that aside. But for the most part, you're normal human. Normal. They're not out to get you. They're doing the best they can. Just like our parents are doing the best they can. Mm-hmm. We don't come with instructions.
Mm-hmm. You got a good frame. Let me ask you a couple questions about art. You're doodling there. It made me wonder, were you an artist as a kid? Did you do this as a child?
So yeah, art's always been in my background. I've always doodled. My mom put us in classes, oil painting and charcoal, and then, like little weekend stuff. Not like I didn't go to art school, but you start learning these things, cross hatching and drawing. I used to draw Marvel comic covers. I was obsessed with that. Or in high school, I did book covers with people's names, and they're like, "Hey, can you make my name in my book cover?" Which then this actually goes into another.
Did you paint, or were you mainly like pencil? What did you?
Pencil, Bic pen, oil paint,
So
everything.
Too.
Yeah.
Drawing and painting.
Not too much. I spent a little time in oil painting, and my sports always was what took over. And then no one says, "Hey, go be an artist." No one says, "Go follow that path." They'll put you in all the classes, but go be a doctor, go be this.
Oh, they like it when you say you're going to be a doctor, don't they?
Right, could be a lawyer. These typical things.
Oh, good. Yeah. They'll make money and be taken care of. Artist. Oh, starving homeless. Mm-hmm. That's a good plan too. Mm-hmm. Right?
But then that's a different thought process. There wasn't anything against it. It was just not.
No, I'm a parent. My daughter said she wants to be an artist too. I said, okay, well, let's talk about being an entrepreneur artist at the same time.
There you go. It goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand.
That's the dad in me.
Give her I'm reading this book right now.
I will take your recommendations on what to.
Yeah, I just started. Someone just sent me this book. So, Real Artists Don't Starve.
I'm gonna do. She's 9, but I'll give that to her for her next birthday.
Yeah. Steal Like an Artist, another artist, Austin Klenon. That one's really good. It's friendly.
I am going to look into those. Along this artist, I really want to kind of get into this. So you've got this message and this inspiration born out of this own moment in yours. It's very personally meaningful to you. And with all this media that I've gotten into, there's a message, it's real basic. Take care of yourself, but how to communicate that to another person and get them to actually hear it, that's an art form. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really curious, you've got your message. How do you get it to people so they receive it? That's the whole art. Talk to me about that. Educate me on that. How do you reach somebody else, and how do you get them right there, where they really hear it?
Well, so that's the premise of my,
cut through it.
I want to elicit an emotional reaction with my work, with people. And
I want them to feel it.
I want them to feel it. I want them to respond to it. Art is very subjective. Based on my experience on everything that I've done, I use bright colors and I use typography. I want to make it as easy as possible to convey my message. I open the door. You've got to walk through it. Sometimes you're looking at art and it's well, where's the door? Where do I scratch? Where do I go? What am I supposed to? I'm telling you, love. I'm grabbing your eyes with color. When we eat colorful food, we feel better. When we look at color, we feel better. When we walk in nature and it's springtime and everything's blooming, we're just better. It's good for us. So even though I wear black all the time, I dress in black, but I paint in color. That is one way. So keep it simple, keep it direct. And I painted a piece, for example. It says, "You belong here." I painted that for myself, saying, I belong here as an artist. Mm-hmm. I belong here doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. That was my reason for painting it.
That was your inspiration, yeah.
And again, going back to the mirror conversation, since we're mirrors of each other, that "You belong here" mural has sent me so many different messages from people in the community of how they take it. I've had people message me and say, "Look, Ruben, thank you so much for your art. I didn't kill myself today because I belong here on this planet." Woo! And I get to live. That's happened a few times. And well, if that's not a reason for me to keep doing this, I don't know what is.
It's inspiring.
And so I get messages like that. In my I Am Love piece, I had a woman talk about her rape, and she said, "I am not a victim. I am worthy. I am worthy of love, and I'm not going to let this define me." I've had an alcoholic say, if I would have seen this mural with all these words, maybe I wouldn't have alienated my family and would have stepped away from alcohol, because it's all about me taking responsibility for my actions. They just didn't know. They didn't see it as a choice or an opportunity. So moments like that, that's why I keep doing this. And that's it.
This is why I think that this is so important, is because I sit on another end of that. I've seen patients that have come in the moment they were raped years ago, still with symptoms. Alcoholics. I had a recent patient I saw 4 times in a week because she kept drinking and kept coming in. Mm-hmm. And I can sit there and lean in and say, "Hey, you got to stop drinking." 99 out of 100 times, they're not going to hear it. There's some, you can't just say, "Hey, you're clearly your abdominal pain is related to your previous trauma and rape and whatever, and people don't. It's not. You're not always able to get through and touch somebody, and so I've done ER medicine for over 10 years. So now I've gotten to this point where I'm like, how can we get to people? How can we connect with them, and how can we communicate messages? And it's like arrows. There's a lot of arrows that are pointing in the direction of what you do, art. You know, how can you speak to people? How can they hear that? And ultimately to the same kind of global mission, which is making a difference, you know, touching somebody, helping them, all this.
And there's lots of study on the impact of how art heals and bringing art into hospitals and for brain work, right? People with dementia and different things, kids with autism, like getting people to be able to even convey their feelings or emotions through that. So that's been very powerful. So I know that that's also a helping point, but
I think like, I believe that for sure. Now let's like ask the practical question. This is good for you too. How do you survive? How do you make money? Like, how do you make a career out of it? So like, I'm thinking even from a hospital perspective, like they're always in jeopardy of closing the doors. It's like, how can you justify spending money? You know, the ER is so sterile and just like, you know, like how can you justify spending money on that stuff? But so, or for you, like now you went from, you knew how to make $1 million in real estate. And part of me is like, well, why didn't you at least do that half-time and then you could do art the other half-time?
I got an answer for that. So 5 years into finance, I'm in this crux where I paint this full mural.
Oh, that's right. You were saying you were.
Where I paint this first mural. And that led to another mural and starting the nonprofit and this. And I'm like starting to do this stuff over here, right? Start sabotaging this because I don't want to do it anymore. So
you were sabotaging
my business,
the
finance business.
Finance, okay.
Yeah. So what that means is I took care of my existing clients. Nothing was wrong with that. I just didn't go out and make new meetings and meet new people and make new sales. Like if you're not actively moving it forward, you know, these people you're maintaining, there's like a little bit of renewals, but you're not making like all the money anymore. So I'm self-sabotaging that because I'm in this place. Part of the depression space was like I call it Mediocreville because I'm being mediocre in the finance on purpose, and I'm being mediocre on how I apply to the art because I didn't even know what that looked like. So I have this, it's like I'd rather be failing than be in this space because at least if you're failing, you're trying and you're doing. But I didn't know what it was like to succeed or fail in the art because I haven't given it the shot yet.
That was like the unknown.
Correct. And I knew what this was like to succeed in, and I started sabotaging it to help me kind of get out of it.
Yeah.
So internally, like I know what I'm doing to get myself out of it, but still I'm super loyal. So like my clients, I couldn't leave them. Like I've signed them up, like I'm helping them. And my clients started saying like, when are you going to go do that? Why aren't you doing that? Like that's what you're supposed to be doing. And finally I had the conversation with myself of like, look, Ruben, you've been operating out of abundance your entire life. Why are you living in fear and scarcity right now? When in high school you sold book covers with people's names on it, with art. Like you've seen the opportunities. You've never had an issue making money. And I finally said, okay, you're right. And I stopped going to the office and just went all in over here. And that kind of just exploded.
So it worked out. Somehow you were able to figure out how to make money and replace the income and whatever that you were getting.
Well, I wouldn't say it replaced the income. I mean, I've never had a salary. I've always been self-employed, commission only, relying on myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the opportunity of like, well, I'm giving up a $200,000 a year paycheck.
Yeah.
It was never a thing. I was making that, no problem, but I still had to make it myself. So just realizing that I've made it here and I've made it here and I've made it here, I can also make it here. And that was the shift in the mindset. I just wanted to apply it.
Yeah, it's like applying your mentality to this art space.
And one of the reasons it took so long is in finance, there's a formula. You make your dials, you schedule your meetings. Of those meetings, certain ones move forward. Of those that move forward, they become a client. Over here, it's like, I have no idea what that looks like. Who do I call? What do I do? I have no idea. But
what's the blueprint?
in that in between, I was painting murals here and there and here and there, and those were all free. They were like, I'm painting murals, like cover my costs. Like I was slowly, because I loved it, because I knew what I was doing and I wanted to do more of it and I wanted to spread and I saw some impact. But slowly that was me reinvesting in my business. Like, hey, and that led to, hey, I'd love a mural. I just saw that mural. I'd love a mural. I stopped by this. I didn't know who it was. I saw your name on it, so I'm emailing you. I'd love a mural. Or do you do art? Or do you do this? And slowly but surely it started coming together.
How long did it take to kind of build up for?
That's a hard question to answer because
Months, years.
It took a while. I mean, this is my second year completed as a full-time artist.
So 2 years ago is when you left the finance job? Okay.
But for 3 years before that, I was doing kind of both. But it was more running the nonprofit and doing a few murals here and there. It wasn't like I do now where I do commissions and I've got clothing and I've got...
Well, I was going to say, so for a budding artist who's like, I want to do what that guy does, what are a couple tips of how to make money and do this dream? One of them, I saw you had a corporate partnership with, I forget what it was in Seattle.
Sheraton.
And I was like, oh, that's smart. You know, you partner with somebody, they've got some bucks, they want to invest in the community, and then that's a way to fund, you know, your mission. Do you have other tips like that of how to, like I saw your website, you've got these t-shirts on there. Yeah.
So let's go back to the first mural to what we did now. I've just continued on this mission and this track and this purpose and moving that forward. And that's what drove me. I was no longer choosing to be driven by money. I operated because like I want to put that here and I want to paint it there. And like I don't need to get paid tons of money. Like I need to eat and I want to cover my costs. Like it's got to be a win-win. Where's it located? And slowly but surely that helped. I think what you've got to realize is you got to stick true to your purpose. You got to play the long game. I've seen just through my experience, when you play the short game, you don't go anywhere.
When you play the short game, you often sacrifice the exact stuff that's going to get you the longer term success.
Yeah, great. You ate that weekend, that month. Or when you have a big opportunity to come in, then you take your foot off the gas and lax and get lazy. So it's just real, like you got to continue doing what you're doing. And with social media now, I mean, you have the opportunity to reach and touch anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about the art. I'm still learning. Like when I started, I didn't know what galleries were. I mean, I knew what a gallery was, but I didn't know what is it to be in a gallery? What is it to have I do it all myself. I still don't have It's just, I'm hacking it. I think people get stuck in, like if you go to medical school, since I was going to study that track, mostly it's like, here, you go do this, this, and this. Nowadays, you can go to medical school, you can go make this luxury posh recovery center and just cash in all day long. You're not really practicing medicine anymore. But all that education allowed you to do that. And maybe it's thinking against the grain and not saying, hey, I'm a classical artist, I've got to act like I'm classical. There's so many thoughts around the starving artist. I think that's just bullshit.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Doesn't have to be that way. And I've had people ask, they've said like, oh, so you're not starving. I'm like, what does that mean?
They're like, that means, oh, how much money are you making, pal? They're prying is what that means. Of the things that you've done, is there any one that sticks out as something you're the most proud of or your favorite, or any project or mural or particular one that was more meaningful?
First off, I would say one of the things that I still struggle with is self-acknowledgement and sitting and say, hey, this was a win, this was a win. So I would say the easiest, no, not the easiest, the hardest answer would be just taking that leap to be here right now. Not meaning on the show, I mean to become the artist that I am, that given me this opportunity. And I've got to look back at that, like having that courage to do that is huge. Not to mention, like, you know, my girlfriend was now my fiance and we were looking at marriage. Like, there's all these other pressures you start getting, right? And then she also took a leap and changed her career and started building her business. So we're kind of two people building these businesses, like talking kids and things in the future. It's like, it's kind of scary, right? But it's also good because she pushed me in that direction. So it's listening to her and actually just taking the leap and getting past all my martyrdom, right? I'm so loyal that I become a martyr. I've been in relationships too long because I don't want to hurt someone. Loyal to these clients, so I stayed in that business too long.
I see.
Moving past that conversation. And then every project is very special and very unique. They're all different. They all make a different impact and a different meaning. So one's not more important than the other or more special or impactful, but the two that stand out are because of how the engagement happened. So my 4th mural ever, it was by American Express. They flew us out to Mississippi. So Clarksdale, Mississippi. The whole project was eye-opening because I'm born and raised in LA. I know like Seattle, the West Coast, Miami, New York, Chicago, Boston, Austin, right? Some cities in between. But you don't go to like Clarksdale, Mississippi.
You don't go to Clarksdale, Mississippi.
I don't, right? I'm born and raised here.
Yeah.
Like, so eye-opening. And I've traveled the world and I've seen like Indonesia and Southeast Asia and like Mexico and Colombia and South America. Like, and I get it. That's not America.
What was so different about it?
It was America.
What about it? I don't know anything about it.
I'm just saying,
It's
like
just a
middle
rural
America,
South,
very
small
rural,
town,
very
Mississippi.
small town, very
Poor.
buildings caved in on themselves. Like this town was like abandoned.
Yeah.
And still it was very, not just that reason it was impactful, the project was impactful, but that's where Morgan Freeman's from. So we painted across the street from Ground Zero's Blues Club, hung out with the mayor down there. And just that was eye-opening, like, wow, this is America. Like,
That there's a town in the U.S. that's that poor and neglected.
yeah,
and,
but I'm like, I'm sure that's more of,
I've worked in places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, that to me was the catch of like, well, why does everyone always want to go build wells in Africa or go do this here or go do there when, dude, we got water issues in America.
Mm-hmm.
Homeless, feeding, food issues, education issues, all these things are here in our home.
Certainly got our own problems.
You know, so that to me is like, why do we always run away and go help everyone else? But it's a different conversation. So that was one thing. The second thing is we painted this mural. It was goals and dreams. So I was able to talk to these kids. The project was around financial literacy. I'm still in finance. So I'm like, wow, if we teach our youth to be more financially literate, I think we'll have a better world just in that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance a checkbook? What is credit? Like I've met 40-year-olds that don't know what credit is.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how to balance a checkbook. Are always in debt. Are always bouncing checks. I'm like, you make that much and how are you in...
Mm-hmm.
This is like kindergarten.
The basics for a guy like you, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's an important thing that we should put in education. So the fact that I was able to tie the two worlds together. Talking financial literacy, painting a mural, beautifying a community. So it was really cool. So American Express took us out there. They started this new card called American Express Serve, which was to allow these lower income people who didn't qualify for a bank account for a number of reasons. Credit, no money, bounce checks, whatever. And they're always going to check cashing places that take 30 to 40% of your dollar.
That's insane.
So they're like cashing 1,000, they're taking home 700, 600,
That's
and they need
insane.
more than 1,000. So that's, to me, that was highway robbery. So they're
Yeah.
like, hey, load up this card and just use it as a debit card. We're not going to take any fees. And I'm like, that's really cool because Amex is like a luxury brand, more of a higher end card.
Yeah.
And
So you kind of aligned with that mission of that.
for the
Yeah.
finance side, like I'm still a big proponent. I like helping people in finance. I mean, I learned all this finance stuff. Now it's like, oh, I'd love to take your advice because I know you don't sell me now.
Well, it's true. You
Yeah.
don't have a quota or whatever.
Yeah. So what this project was about is I painted a little girl, stack of books, looking out, like what is beyond this place. This was the graduating class. And I did a board and it said goals and dreams. So I got to talk to them about their dreams. I'm like, who's got dreams? What does this look like? They started opening up and I said, here's the difference between a goal and a dream. A dream is you saying it and it's just kind of out there. Now turning that dream into a goal is you putting it on paper, putting it down, telling someone, like really putting an attainable physical opportunity behind it. So on this mural, there was a section where they all got to paint their dream into reality. So OBGYN, BMW, Army, NFL, dentist, this. So that was physically painted by all these kids onto the mural in this space.
Visualize their dream in a concrete
and I can send you photos and
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I have some time lapse and stuff you can show.
That'd be really cool.
And so that was very impactful. You know, at the end of that, we were singing and dancing. I remember we were singing this Rihanna song. That was really cool. And then at the end, my buddy Evan and Zach and I, we kind of just huddled and started crying. Like, wow, we were able to do this. Like,
it's intense.
3 dudes from LA, just coming in here, and like to them, it's like, oh, LA's Hollywood. Like who are these guys? To them, we are.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh, why are they here? So that was one. The other one last year.
That's awesome.
Was my neighbor invited me to go speak with the inmates at Lancaster State Prison. So I got to speak with them, hang out. We spoke about gratitude and forgiveness and a lot of like EQ conversations. And I was just floored by them and by their growth. All these guys committed murder. So very violent acts of crime. When they were young, some were in there for 13 years, 35 years, 23 years, you name it. They were in there most of their lives. I mean, what changes on an iPhone in those 8 years? They don't even know what's going on, which I was like floored by. Mm-hmm. And we got a tour, and I saw their art facilities, and I kind of threw out an idea, like, what if we paint a mural here? Like, this wall's giant and beige, like, just this is like, it's jail, you know? And then after we left, my buddy comes back and says, hey, you know that idea you had? Well, yeah, you can paint a mural. So we set it up, and I have a whole little mini doc. I can send you the link for this too. We painted a mural on their cell block, inside the prison, inside the yard, with these men, and it says forgive, and it casts a shadow that says forgiven. So the whole topic was about how you've got to forgive yourself before you can even ask for forgiveness. So it was a very powerful moment in not just the basis of my work and moving it forward, but being able to make this impact in this prison. And they tell me now, like, it's made an impact to all inmates, not just the ones that helped. It made an impact to all the guards. Like, they're out there doing pull-ups, and it's on this wall, just huge.
Yeah.
So that was
awesome.
One that was.
That's incredible. I'm just imagining, you know, the whole thing. When did you finish that one?
August. I think it was August.
A couple months ago.
August last year.
A year ago.
Yeah.
What are you working on now?
I've got a lot of stuff in the hopper, but mostly what I'm working on now is really building out the movement and the shirts, and I'm working on trying to get some sculptures out there. I'm constantly growing and evolving. And then my startup. So we've launched a Beautify Earth for purpose company. That's a software company, like the Airbnb of murals. Landlords could load up their ugly walls. Artists can put their resume. They can kind of find each other. Or brands and sponsors could come in and say, hey, I want a few walls, a few artists, and link it all together.
Connecting artists with.
So we're taking what we've learned in the nonprofit, now applying it with software and tech, because we can't, if we want to paint 1 million murals, we can't do it the way we've been doing it in the nonprofit. It's not scalable.
Scale, yeah.
Yeah. And we believe that, I mean, there's too many ugly blank walls in this world, and there's too many artists with that want to just share their voice. So.
Wow, that makes sense. You talked about dreams and goals. I'm curious what some of yours are now, looking forward. You mentioned like having a fiance, and I know you've got the nonprofit and then the business side and all that. I'm just curious about
goals, huge goals. I mean, aside from beautifying that marketplace and really growing that on the personal art side, and like I want to get into sculptures. I'm growing out, you know, the merch line and the brand. I want to sell 1 million t-shirts. I want people to wear this out there, and I think that every time someone sees it, it's going to shift the way they're moving forward and the movement of living through love. So just building out that community and building out what that means. And just, I have some like crazy goals. Like if Elon Musk gets us to Mars, like I want to paint the first mural on Mars. if you don't think that way, I don't think...
I like, how's that rock look over there? No, it needs to be a little smoother. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, the substance that it's made of.
Right? So it's just, I believe, I mean, one of the things that drives or helps push me forward is you've got to think that way. You got to aim for the stars, maybe you land on the moon or further.
Wow.
So...
That's inspiring. So this love thing, which you've got on that guy right there, I definitely recognize that from Lewis Howe's thing. So this is your art.
Yeah.
And all these Instagram photos with people in front of these things, those are yours. Yep. Where is your stuff around Venice and Santa Monica? Like, I feel like I've seen... Is there one on Abbott Kinney? And
not on Abbott. There's one on Rose and 6th. There's one on 4th in Santa Monica.
Maybe those are...
The bigger murals in general. I don't do a ton of, like, love walls like this.
Yeah.
It's more a small piece of a mural, or this is more the art that goes in homes. But, yeah, they're kind of all over.
I'd be curious to find them if you would give me some of the spots locally.
I got a location list. I'll send it.
Yeah, perfect. And I know this is like Lewis's backdrop. I wouldn't copy that, but if you have like a little sticker, bumper sticker or something,
yeah.
You can put it up around here. I like having books and things from guests.
In the car.
This has been pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You're a kick-ass dude. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's inspiring to hear you talk and to take it all in and keep doing what you do. You know, it's great. And I like thinking about the ways that even though on the, with the white coat on in an ER, I can still feel ways that, we share a similar mission to, make the world a better place and touch lives. So it's good. That's it.
My name's Ruben Rojas. I'm on Dr. Larry's show, Life Can Change in a Moment. You can find me at rubenrojas.com, at Ruben Rojas on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. As always, subscribe, share this, follow Ruben at rubenrojas.com or on Instagram. If you have a moment or you know someone, reach out to me on social media. We'd love to have more stories that matter. We'll see you next time.
And he had just been through group home after group home. His parents were drug addicts. I mean, it was just, he had a rough life, right? And he acted out all the time. People hated him. He was like spitting on people, just really crazy things. But I always saw that there was like another side to him.